The Gambler's Fall. From debt to despair in Squid Game. What if I told you that desperation could drive a man to play a game where the price of losing is your very life? This chilling question serves as the gateway to the harrowing journey of one man, a man whose life spirals into chaos due to his insurmountable debt and reckless gambling habits. But the story doesn't just follow a single individual's fall, it paints a grim picture of a broken system, where vulnerability and desperation become tools for exploitation. In a world where losing isn't just about money, but life itself, this man's journey becomes a haunting reflection of what happens when society's most fragile are pushed to the brink. The desperate descent of Gi-hun. At the center of this dark narrative is Gi-hun, a man nearing 50, broken by the weight of failure. He is not only a gambling addict, constantly chasing the next high to escape his mundane life, but also a failed father and son. His relationships are fractured, and his debts continue to pile up, leaving him drowning in a sea of financial despair. The kind of man who spends his last bit of money on a frivolous bet only to find himself deep in debt and further away from his dreams of redemption. But Gi-hun's problems aren't just a result of bad luck. His story represents something far deeper, a symptom of a much larger, more systematic issue. A society that is indifferent to the struggles of the vulnerable and powerless. A world where every decision, every misstep is weighed down by financial consequences, where the soul-sucking grip of debt controls a person's every move. Gi-hun's predicament mirrors a reality that far too many people face every day, a relentless cycle of indebtedness that extends beyond monetary value. Imagine living a life so controlled by your debts that the very organs of your body are considered collateral. Imagine being hounded by aggressive loan sharks, constantly threatened with violence, as every failed gamble or desperate decision brings you one step closer to the brink of destruction. This nightmarish scenario is Gi-hun's life, and tragically, it's a life shared by millions of people trapped in poverty, their dreams dashed by a society that thrives on their exploitation. The world that Gi-hun inhabits is harsh and unforgiving, a constant reminder of the crushing weight of inequality. A glimmer of hope? And then, just when it seems like there's no way out, something unexpected happens. A mysterious invitation arrives in the form of a card offering a lifeline, an escape from the crushing debt that has consumed his life. The card promises to erase his financial burdens and grant him the chance to start over, to build a new future free from the shackles of poverty. But like all things in life, there is a catch. The price of this escape is not money, it's far more costly than that. Gi-hun is thrust into a terrifying new reality, a world where the stakes are life and death. The card leads him to an underground high-stakes competition known as the Squid Game. In this brutal arena, a group of desperate people from all walks of life is forced to participate in a series of deadly games. The reward is unimaginable wealth, but the penalty for losing is equally unforgiving: death. Here, in this bizarre and twisted environment, the players are not simply competing for a cash prize, their lives are the real currency. In the Squid Game, human lives are treated as expendable. This is no longer about survival of the fittest, it's about survival at any cost, with people willing to sacrifice their humanity for a fleeting chance at redemption. A deadly game of desperation. As Gi-hun steps into this new world, he finds himself surrounded by other participants, each just as desperate as he is, each carrying their own tragic backstories and personal demons. Some seek to escape crushing poverty. Others are driven by a desperate need to repay debts or secure a future for their families. As the games unfold, alliances are formed, friendships are tested, and betrayals lurk around every corner. What emerges from this horrific journey is not only the question of who will survive, but whether survival itself is worth the cost. In this dark and unforgiving world, the true nature of desperation is laid bare. Every decision becomes a matter of life and death, and the boundaries between right and wrong become increasingly blurred. The further Gi-hun descends into this chaotic realm, the more he realizes that the games are not just a test of physical endurance, they are a profound reflection of the dehumanizing forces that drive society's most vulnerable into conflict with one another. It's a bitter commentary on the social inequalities that create desperation, pitting people against each other in a brutal struggle for survival. But amid this chaos, glimpses of humanity persist. Despite the cruelty and brutality of the games, moments of compassion and camaraderie emerge. Bonds are formed between players, friendships are tested, and sacrifices are made in the name of survival. As Gi-hun forms connections with others, he begins to rediscover the flickering remnants of his humanity, the very thing that the game's organizers seek to strip away. The humanity within the darkness. At the heart of Squid Game is a deeper question. What is the true cost of desperation? How much of our humanity are we willing to sacrifice in the pursuit of survival? Gi-hun's journey forces him to confront this question head-on. In the face of unspeakable violence and chaos, can money and survival really justify the suffering of others? Is it worth losing everything, including one's very soul, just for a chance at a better life? Through Gi-hun's eyes, we see the bleak realities of a system that exploits desperation for profit. The game is not just a twisted form of entertainment, it is a chilling metaphor for how the poor and vulnerable are manipulated by forces far beyond their control. The rich and powerful sit comfortably in the background, watching as those who have nothing left fight for their lives in a grotesque spectacle. It is a brutal reflection of the social and economic inequalities that persist in the real world. However, in the midst of this unrelenting darkness, Gi-hun's struggle becomes a story of hope. As he continues his journey through the games, he begins to rediscover the strength to choose humanity over brutality. The final confrontation between Gi-hun and Sang-woo, his former childhood friend turned ruthless adversary, is not just a fight for survival, it is a battle of conscience. In this climactic moment, Gi-hun is faced with a choice that will define his journey: to walk away from the money and refuse to kill, or to succumb to the dehumanizing forces of the game. In his decision, Gi-hun rejects the value of money at the expense of his humanity. His refusal to kill his friend, even under the pressure of survival, is a powerful statement against the dehumanizing nature of the games. It is a moment of redemption, a glimmer of hope that shines through in a world consumed by darkness. A reflection of our own world. Squid Game is more than just a thrilling survival drama. It is a poignant social commentary on the inequalities of our world, the human cost of capitalism, and the dangers of unchecked greed. The show forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the value of human life and the lengths we would go to in the pursuit of wealth and survival. It challenges us to consider what it means to be human in a world that often seems determined to strip us of our humanity. Gi-hun's journey is one of transformation, one that forces us to examine our own values, our own relationship with money and power, and our own understanding of what it means to live with dignity. As we watch Gi-hun's fall and rise, we are reminded that even in the most desperate of times, humanity can still prevail, but only if we are willing to fight for it. The question remains, what can we learn from Gi-hun's journey? How can we create a world where desperation does not drive people to such extreme measures? Squid Game compels us to examine these questions and to reflect on the real-world implications of its story. It is a call for change, a plea for a more compassionate society, and a reminder that we must strive to create a world where no one is ever forced to gamble their life for a chance at survival. In the end, Squid Game challenges us to look beyond the surface and question our values. It dares us to imagine a world where every person has the opportunity to live with dignity, not desperation. And perhaps, in doing so, it offers a flicker of hope that humanity can still rise above the darkness.